Hello, my name is Matthias. Welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for Game Week 36. We are heading into the three final game weeks of the season, one double game week left in Game Week 37, and the wildcard team is looking pretty similar to what I wildcarded into in Game Week 35. There are a couple different changes that I've made from the team from last week. Some of that is down to the fact that we have one less double game week. Chelsea and Spurs players are not as interesting anymore because they don't have two double game weeks as opposed to the one that they have left. So yeah, let's just go into the team basically. First pick, as always, is going to be the player that I deem the most important player to have in Fantasy Premier League currently. And then the 15th player in my squad, the final member of my squad, is going to be the man that I'm the least impressed by or the least sure that I should have in the wildcard draft as it stands right now. So obviously, I'm not wildcarding myself. I don't think there are that many people left with a wildcard, but I know some of you guys like to see the rankings and the best players to have currently. Is it, for example, nice to have De Bruyne rather than Foden? Is it nice to have Heung-min Son rather than Anthony Gordon, for example? Stuff like that will be answered in this video as well, because I will do this with the ranking system that I just explained to you. So number one pick is going to be the most important player to have, and the 15th player is going to be the least important player to have. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's worth a free transfer to go from, for example, the number 7th pick to number 5 pick, if you have that chance, for example, in your team. There might be other circumstances as well. A free transfer is worth 4 points, so it's not too much between these guys anyway, at least in some positions. But yeah, you'll get the idea anyway further along in the video. But I think it will be useful even if you are not on a wildcard, like myself, for example. So let's move on to the first pick of the draft, and that's going to be Cole Palmer, as always, pretty much. Even though Chelsea don't have a double game week or a second double game week anymore, they only have the one double game week in 37. And Palmer also blanked in the first fixture out of the two double game week fixtures in Game Week 35. I still have a lot of faith in Palmer as the main guy for Chelsea. He really should have scored the winning goal there against Aston Villa as well. Gotten a point there. That was a tough match anyway, so can't really begrudge Palmer for that. And for the remaining matches of the season, West Ham at home, Nottingham Forest and Brighton away, and then Bournemouth at home. Plenty of chances for Palmer to score, whether it's through a penalty, which he almost got as well against Aston Villa, or through open play, as he's shown this whole season. He's still within the reach of being the top scorer in the league as well, so I think he is going to be fully motivated to play. Obviously, the price is so good. He's just been such an outstanding asset the whole season that number one pick is just pretty much a given every single game week, as long as he's at this low price that it's going to be for the rest of the season, basically. So let's move on to number two. And number two is going to be Phil Foden yet again. I think he's still the best Man City asset to have, despite him being ill and not playing in like 3 out of the last 4 game weeks. So maybe he's a bit unreliable, I guess. But he should be at least more than fully rested to play for the rest of the matches now. His body, now that he's back from illness, is going to be fine. He's going to be a really good player to have, and Man City are the best team in the league potentially. They are chasing that title. They need to win all 4 games to win the title, basically. And especially if they get a draw as well, they need to score a lot of goals to make sure. If any of the games ends in a draw and Arsenal win out, they will need to get better goal difference than Arsenal, and they're currently, I think, 7 goals behind in the goal difference. So I think City will score a lot of goals, and I think Foden will be one of the main men for scoring those goals as well. And I think he's going to play for the rest of the season as well, every single match. So he comes in at number 2, but there are several other City attackers in this squad as well, 2 others actually. Number 3 pick is another one, Haaland, and he could have actually been higher up in this list as well now that he scored after coming on in this last game against Nottingham Forest. I think Haaland will be back to his best, and he will be a free scoring machine now, and he's going to be probably the best captaincy option in pretty much every single game week for the rest of the season. Maybe not game week 38, maybe Son is better if he gets his form back a little bit before he plays Sheffield United. But other than that, I think the double is pretty nice for Haaland, despite Spurs away being a tough fixture for Man City. Spurs is also pretty weak defense where you could easily exploit that. But Van de Ven is a really good defender, so maybe he will be struggling a bit more in that game week. I think that will be an interesting game week for captaincy for sure, whether it's Palmer, Haaland, when you want to punt on one of the Newcastle guys like Isak, for example. Several ways to go in Game Week 37, but I think Haaland is going to be probably your safest bet for a good captaincy choice in each of those weeks. So he comes in at number 3 with this draft, because I think he's going to play and just be a menace up front for Man City again. And I don't think he's going to miss as many chances as he has done so far this season. It's pretty much go time for Man City, and they need as many goals as they can. And I think Haaland is going to be the focal point, of course, of that attack as well. Then next up, number 4, we have Alexander Isak. I did mention that he might be the best captaincy option for Game Week 37. The only slight doubt I have about Isak is the fact that Callum Wilson is back for Newcastle and is playing a lot of minutes. Or not a lot of minutes so far, but he's going to play more and more minutes as he gets back to full fitness, basically. But the good thing about Isak is the fact that whenever Wilson has come on lately, Isak is still played, and he's still played pretty offensively. He's played not quite as the main striker for Newcastle. That's going to be Callum Wilson when he comes on and plays at the same time as Isak, but Isak is going to be that second striker sort of next to Callum Wilson. So he has still good appeal, and Wilson is not going to play 90 minutes every game either. He's going to play probably 60 at most for the rest of the season if he's starting or not, basically. But the only thing that is like severely dampens the appeal of what Isak in that regard, I guess, is the penalty taking, because penalties has been a big part of Isak's points lately. Anthony Gordon has been absolutely amazing at winning penalties for Newcastle, and if Wilson is on the pitch at the same time as Isak, you expect Wilson to take them still, because he has done that for basically the 2 seasons that Isak and Wilson have played together. Whenever they're both on the pitch, Wilson takes the penalties, and that is obviously not as ideal for Isak as it would be if he was on penalties. But I still think Isak is a great pick. So he comes in at number 4. He's dropped down 1 spot since last time. I think Haaland is just going to be a bit better now for the rest of the season, but I think both of them are pretty much locks in every single team that I would have. I would try to target getting one of these guys back into the team if you don't have them already, obviously, apart from Palmer and Foden, who I think are even more important players to have. And Foden, especially for just the price compared to Haaland. It's just easier to fit in that Haaland. But yeah, all these 4 guys are really good. And the 5th guy, I think, is also really good. And that is Kevin De Bruyne. And I know a lot of people will struggle to bring him in, but I think a lot of people also went with Ederson as their goalkeeper. And my plea to you guys is don't make this immediate switch from Ederson to Ortega this game week. I would still just wait a game week. Maybe De Bruyne will look like $1,000 for the double game week, and you really want to have that 3rd city spot open for De Bruyne. So I would not buy Ortega personally. I would probably, if I had someone like Petrovic, for example, playing against West Ham this week, I'd probably just play him and then see what happens with the Ederson Ortega situation, and then sell Ederson and bring in De Bruyne if I could, potentially, if we're giving 37, or potentially even immediately if you want to take a hit and sell Ederson and Brian De Bruyne already. I think De Bruyne is going to be a really, really good pick. He was my pick last week as well in the weekly wildcard draft. He's in my own wildcard team, obviously, because the last week's weekly wildcard draft is basically my team, because I wildcarded in Game 35. And I'm really happy about De Bruyne so far with the 2 assists that he got in this last game against Nottingham Forest. He had several chances as well, and he's going to be like the main source of attack for Man City as well, as long as he's playing. And I think he's going to play most games now, with City just having the FA Cup final left after the season, and just a lot to play for still, with Arsenal still in the mix there in the title hunt. So De Bruyne is absolutely fantastic still, and I think the triple City attack thing is going to be working wonders for you. Most people will have Foden and Haaland, so they will not be that big of a differential, but De Bruyne is a huge differential at this point, so anytime he scores, it's going to be fantastic for you guys. And I think De Bruyne has shown throughout the past like 6-7 seasons in the Premier League, he's absolutely amazing value when he plays and is the main guy for City, playing 70 plus minutes per game, and I think he's going to do that at this point of the season. So my plea to you guys would be try to save that 3rd city spot if you have a chance to. You could always go with Guardiola and stuff instead if you don't feel 100% sure about De Bruyne, but I think they are pretty good options. Maybe if you get enough money from Ederson to Ortega to get in someone else that you really want, maybe you want to do that move still. But I think De Bruyne is the better 3rd city asset than Ortega at this moment, even though Ortega is 3.7 and is still a really good goalkeeper for the rest of the season, assuming Ederson is injured for the rest of the season at least. I just think De Bruyne is better, so he comes in at number 5 for that reason. Number 6 on the list is Heung-min Son. He's still in here despite having 1 less double game week. He scored in the first game against Arsenal, has the game against Chelsea in hand as well in the double game week 35 fixtures. He has Liverpool away next game week in game 36, and I think that's a pretty good fixture for him still. I think Liverpool are really bad currently, and Spurs can easily score a couple goals against them, even at Anfield, so I think that's a decent fixture for him. I wouldn't bench him probably. I would probably still play him over the likes of Gordon and potentially also Nicholas Jackson as well. So yeah, I think Son is still going to be a good pick for that week. And then obviously the final 2 game weeks of the season, Burnley at home in game 37, on top of having Man City as well, a game that has been pretty good for Son in the past. And then Sheffield United away in the final game of the season for Spurs, who are still chasing that 4th place spot in the Premier League. I think Son is still a really good player to have. He is a bit expensive, so maybe you want to take a punt on someone like Richarlison, for example, who's a bit cheaper, if that allows you to get other players that you want in the team. So that could be something that you could go with instead. Anthony Gordon obviously is also a good pick. There is another good pick that I have for you as the 5th midfielder. So it's not going to be Gordon actually, which is kind of a big surprise for myself as well, because he has been so good, but it's just about the away fixtures for Gordon. But you could go with someone else in that 4th midfield spot. I don't feel quite as strongly about Son as I do the rest, but just looking at the fixtures, looking at him being the penalty taker and the main man for Spurs, it just makes sense to have him still in the team, I think. So he comes in at number 6. Number 7, Gabriel Magalhaes from Arsenal. I just have all the respect in the world for Gabriel. I think Arsenal's defense is still really, really good. Gabriel has still that attacking threat. We've seen Arsenal just continue to score and score and score from set pieces. And I think Gabriel is still their best set piece threat in attacking set pieces as well. So he has no double game weeks, obviously, but he has 3 decent fixtures as well. He has Bournemouth at home and Everton at home in Game Week 36 and Game Week 38, respectively. And then Man United away in Game Week 37. I don't think it's too bad. I think Arsenal will be able to keep Man United from creating too many chances, and we know how bad Man United are at scoring chances. So I think that will be a decent chance for a clean sheet as well. So I think Gabriel is a really good pick for that reason. I think Arsenal players in general are a bit overlooked because they don't have double game weeks, but I think Arsenal will still be really, really good to end the season because they obviously want to put the pressure on City and try to win the title at this point with nothing else to play for than the title, obviously. So Gabriel, amazing player this whole season. There's a lot of people that have value head into him. If you still have him at this point, he's probably a bit cheaper for you than he would be if you had to buy him again. So yeah, I just like Gabriel. He's a bit cheaper than both Branthwaite and Saliba as well. So that helps as well in terms of the money spent. And I think he might be the best Arsenal defender as well because you never know what Branthwaite. All of a sudden he could be rotated, but at the same time, I think Branthwaite is going to play the last 3 remaining fixtures of the season as well. It's just more of the price for my taste, basically, and just the fact that I really like Gabriel, that I make him my Arsenal defender over the other Arsenal potential defenders in this game. Number 8, we have Pedro Porro, who I still have a decent amount of faith in. He almost got an assist last time around with a shot that was deflected twice before he went to Van de Ven, who was deemed to be offside, just ever so slightly. So Pedro Porro showed some nice attacking threat in that game. He is on set pieces. Maddison is not playing most of the games now either. So I think Porro will be taking most set pieces, and when he's on set pieces, he's an amazing player to have in FPL, and especially with the fixtures against Burnley and Sheffield United, where you expect Spurs to be on the front foot and basically control the game and get a lot of set piece chances, for example. I think Pedro Porro is going to be really good for those games. So I really like Pedro Porro currently. I think he is the second best defender in the game currently as well to have in FPL. And that's mainly due to the 2 fixtures that he has against Burnley and Sheffield United. But even the game against Liverpool, he could get some attacking returns and potentially even a clean sheet, because Liverpool haven't really been the best attacking-wise either lately. They've just been struggling all across the board, and with all the discontent in between the squad with Klopp and Salah and that stuff as well. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Spurs beat Liverpool in that game. So I think Pedro Porro is going to be a decent start for this game week as well, despite it being Liverpool at Anfield. So really like Pedro Porro at number 8. Let's move on to number 9, and that is going to be Dan Burn from Newcastle. Again, really good fixtures for Newcastle, and I haven't really tripled up with Newcastle in this draft, which is kind of interesting, but there is a method to the madness, I guess, which I will talk about pretty soon. But Dan Burn is basically the only fit defender left at Newcastle, with Botman out injured. Shaw had to go off injured last time around. Trippier is making his way back, so that's partly due to the reason why I haven't had that third Newcastle player in this squad, because I think Trippier, if he's back fully fit to play in Game Week 37 for the double game week, I think it's going to be a really, really nice option to have. So I want to keep my options open when it comes to Newcastle and the third guy, but obviously they have a really good fixture against Burnley away. Really nice fixtures in Game Week 37 and 38 as well. So you could triple up and have another Newcastle defender, but currently I can't really see who's going to start. Maybe Livramento, but you never know who's going to come back. If Fabian Schär is going to come back, maybe that will make things more difficult for Livramento to play as well. So you could go with someone like that. You could go with Lewis Hall if you feel like Trippier is going to be out for the remainder of the season as well. There are some options there. The goalkeepers as well is also up in the air when it comes to Newcastle. Dubravka is playing now, but Nick Pope is right around the corner. He's about to come back. So there's just a lot of doubts when it comes to the final Newcastle defender spot, I guess, if you want to go with that. Or you could go with Gordon in attack. But like I said, with Newcastle, 3 out of the last 4 games is away from home. And so far this season, for some reason, Anthony Gordon has just really struggled away from home. So if you have some belief in that, then maybe you want to avoid Gordon and just have 2 Newcastle players. And I think Isak and Burn are the 2 standouts for that reason. You could make a case for Wilson as well as like a third striker. I think he would be a decent shout as well. I think he's going to play and come on and have a decent chance to score as well, because he often comes on when Newcastle are up already 3-1 and 4-1 and stuff, and he scores the final goal or final 2 goals as he did in the opening game against Aston Villa. So I think he's a decent option as well. But yeah, when it comes to Dan Burn, like I said, the only like fit defender that we can trust. He's also really cheap. He's also a nice set piece threat. He's on set pieces in terms of getting into the box and getting in there for the headers. He was pretty close to scoring on that 4-1 goal for Newcastle, where they got an own goal from Osborne. He was really close to the situation there, so he could have easily scored a goal there as well. So yeah, Burn is just a fit defender that plays all the time for Newcastle. Eddie Howe loves him, and he's a really cheap price with really good fixtures, playing for a really good team. So yeah, Dan Burn comes in at number 9. Number 10, we have Raya in goal, and I just don't really like any of the goalkeepers, and especially for game week 36 and 38, 2 of the game weeks that we have left. I think Raya is the best option against Bournemouth at home and Everton at home. I do expect Arsenal to keep clean sheets in those games, so having a double up with Gabriel and Raya in that regard would be really, really nice for those 2 game weeks. Even in game week 37, if you're on a bench boost like I am myself, and you potentially could be if you're drafting or if you're doing a wildcard now yourself as well, I still think Man United away isn't the worst fixture to bench boost in either. You can't really expect like a complete bench boost with 15 out of 15 players having a double game week, and I don't really think the double game week goalkeepers are that good either. I have one more goalkeeper left who has a double game week in 37, but I don't really have much faith in him, and that just shows why I don't really like any of the goalkeepers that could potentially play a double game week in game 37 as well. But Raya, the best goalkeeper to have in FPL currently with all the clean sheets that Arsenal are having. Also got the 10 points, got the 3 bonus points in a couple games back in the double game week, for example. So yeah, I think Raya is a really solid choice to have, especially for gaming 36 and 38. You could also potentially sell him in gaming 37 if there is a good goalkeeper option you want to go with. Someone like Ortega, for example, if you want to go with someone like that rather than going with De Bruyne. For some reason, I wouldn't advise that, but if you have some money issues and stuff and you don't have enough money to get De Bruyne, then Ortega is obviously a really good shout to have as a goalkeeper for that game week as well. If Ederson is out for the rest of the season. But Raya, fantastic pick, I think, for the 2 game weeks before and after game 37. And in that game week, I still think Man United away is not the worst fixture either. Moving up to number 11, and we have a 3rd Arsenal player actually, which is kind of interesting seeing as they don't have double game week in 37. But I think Kai Havertz is just in the form of his life, scoring pretty much every single game week. Last time around, he got 13 points in a single game week, a single game against Spurs as well. Spurs away, which is a fixture that many people would deem a tough fixture to score in, but Havertz was outstanding again, having a really nice assist to Saka with a cross-court pass with beautiful precision there, and he also scored from a set piece on a header as well. So Havertz is just amazing currently, and I think he is a really nice differential player to have as well, because most people have jumped on double game week players instead, and I think Havertz is going to be really good value, especially for this game week and potentially game week 38 as well. You could also potentially just have him for this game week if you're wildcarding now, for example. You can have a Havertz for this game week and then sell him for Gordon, for example, next game week in the double when Newcastle have that home game to Brighton, which is going to be really, really nice for Gordon as well. I think that's a really good game week for Gordon. So you could potentially do that, get some money back from Havertz in that game week as well. But I just do think Havertz is going to be really, really nice, especially for game week 36 and 38. So I like to have him as a potential option if you get injuries and stuff and you have to play him in 37 and 38 and you have to keep him basically. That's fine too. If you want to keep him as well, despite having no injuries, that would also be fine. So I think Havertz is just really good value, and despite not having a double game week, he's going to be worth it in the end because he's going to score and assist and all the things that he's done lately as one of the best players for Arsenal currently, which is kind of crazy to say considering the start of the season, how people looked at that transfer and Havertz in general after a couple not so good seasons in the Premier League. But he's playing for a better team now. He's playing for Arsenal, a proper Premier League team compared to Chelsea. Sorry, Chelsea fans, you're kind of a banter club currently. But yeah, Havertz is still a really good player, I think, and he comes in at number 11. Number 12, we have Branthwaite, as always, pretty much playing Luton away and Sheffield United at home in the next 2 game weeks. I think he's going to be having decent chances of having clean sheets in those games. Had a clean sheet this past game as well. Everton should have started him against Brentford, but after Brentford scored 5 goals the game before, I had just a little bit of doubts in Everton not conceding any goals in that game. But again, they showed why they're so good at home this season, especially under Sean Dyche. So for the next 2 games, I think he has a decent chance of keeping clean sheets. Obviously, Luton is most likely going to score towards the end of the match to get that 1 goal in a 2-1 loss, which they usually do. But still, I think Everton have a decent chance of keeping a clean sheet there, as they have shown this whole season. Defensively, basically. So Branthwaite, really good option. Obviously, game week 38 is not ideal with Arsenal away. You would probably bench him in that game week, but yeah, still for those 2 previous game weeks, it's going to be a really cheap, really good asset to have in those game weeks, and you can start him in those fixtures. Especially if you don't like Porro against Liverpool away, for example, you can start Branthwaite, Burn, and Gabriel instead, and just hope for the best in the fixtures that they play in game week 36. So Branthwaite, really good option. He's pretty much all the time in this squad. I think it's been in most weekly wildcard draft squads for the past 10-15 game weeks, it seems like. So I just really like his price. I really like his attacking returns as well, attacking potential. He has shown a lot more attacking potential than people give him credit for. I think he's not that much worse, or even could be the same or even potentially better than Tarkowski in the end when it comes to attacking returns. So yeah, I really like Branthwaite at number 12. Number 13, we have Mickey van de Ven, who is just the final Spurs guy to have, just because of their fixtures in Game Week 37 and 38. Obviously, we would bench Van de Ven against Liverpool because he doesn't have that attacking threat that Pedro Porro has, but he also is a lot cheaper than Pedro Porro, and I think he's just the best Spurs asset to have there as well. But obviously, if you want to go with not having another Spurs asset, if you want to have that final Spurs asset open, whether you want to have Vicario in goal or someone like Richarlison in midfield or Brendan Johnson in midfield, you could go without Van de Ven, but I think it's going to be a decent player to have for the Burnley and Sheffield United fixtures in particular. I think even Spurs could keep clean sheets in those games potentially, so Van de Ven makes the squad for that reason. He also showed some attacking prowess last game when he was just offside and scored the goal. That was disallowed, but he can score, pop off and score a goal as well. We've seen him with a really beautiful finish with his left as well earlier in the season. So his finishing isn't the worst either. We saw also Romero score this past game, but he's a bit more expensive than Van de Ven. So I prefer Van de Ven just because of the price, and this team is pretty expensive. So needed someone cheap to have in defense on top of all the players that I have already. So he comes in at number 13. Number 14, we have Andre Onana, who's the backup goalkeeper, I guess, or the second choice goalkeeper next to Raya. Again, not the best fixtures. Crystal Palace away, not that good. Arsenal home, you expect them to concede in that game. Newcastle at home, you expect them to concede in that game. Even against Burnley this past game week, he did concede because he made a stupid penalty. Couldn't even save the penalty either. So he is a bit of a risk. Obviously, Onana in terms of clean sheets, he might go the rest of the season without a clean sheet. And then in Game Week 38, you don't really need them either. You can just play Raya instead, or you might want to switch out Raya in Game Week 37. That could also be another transfer that you make in 37 with the squad. But yeah, Onana was close to getting a clean sheet last time around. He has shown a couple games that he can get clean sheets in tough matches, so potentially could get some points, but yeah, I wouldn't be holding out too much hope, and that's why he's number 14. But I still think he's the best goalkeeper to have with a double in Game Week 37 that doesn't block any of the other spots that I want in the team. I don't have any other Man United players in the squad, so taking up a Man United spot with a goalkeeper isn't the worst thing in the world either. So he comes in at number 14. Number 15, and finally in the squad we have João Pedro, and that's basically just down to me having not enough funds to get someone like Nico Jackson, for example. And I think with the double game week and João Pedro being on penalties, he's going to be the best cheap option to have in FPL currently. So not too sold on João Pedro. You can obviously bench him for this upcoming game week. You can bench him, Van de Ven and Pedro Porro, for example, in Game Week 36, and then have him ready for the double game week if you're bench boosting. If you're not bench boosting, you could play him over Havertz, for example. So it's a pretty good team, whether you're bench boosting or not, to have João Pedro, basically. But yeah, not too much faith in him. He hasn't really proven much lately. Brighton have looked terrible lately, haven't really scored, haven't really been close to scoring. But they could potentially just turn it on for a couple matches, maybe. So yeah, he just comes in because he's cheap and he has a double game week pretty much, and he's on penalties, but not entirely sold on him, and that's why he's number 15. And finally, you can see I have Onana, Van de Ven, Havertz, and João Pedro all marked in green. One player in each position, actually. Didn't do that on purpose, but one player in each position that is new, which means that they're marked in green, and that means 4 players have dropped out. So let's take a look at who those players are before we wrap up this video. First and foremost, Anthony Gordon was number 6 pick last time around, and I do still have a lot of faith in him, but I do just really like Havertz as well as an option there. And with Newcastle playing away, let's just test if Gordon can do the job against Burnley away. So I think Havertz is going to be a higher ceiling in that game, and then you could just do Havertz to Gordon next week if you feel like it. Instead, that could be your tactic. But I think even if you just need to keep Havertz, I think he's a really good choice. And Gordon, you could choose him rather than one of the other midfielders. Maybe someone gets injured. I still think Gordon has a lot of value, and he is someone that I would potentially want to have in my squad as well if I was wildcarding. I obviously have him myself because I wildcarded him in Game Week 35, and I have no plans to sell him straight away, but or for the rest of the season basically. But yeah, he's a really good pick, but he just had to drop out because I felt like Havertz will have a higher ceiling for this game week in particular. Petrovic in goal. Just don't really like Chelsea in terms of defense. Petrovic hasn't really been the best goalkeeper this season either. Maybe he gets dropped potentially. I don't know. I just don't like Chelsea players apart from Palmer and potentially Nico Jackson. But yeah, I only have Chelsea or Palmer from Chelsea in this wildcard draft because they just have one double game week left. And despite them having really good fixtures, I just don't trust Chelsea at all, basically. Madueke has also been a decent differential shout. He had got some points in the game against Aston Villa, so maybe he's someone that you would like as the 5th midfielder instead of Havertz as well. He's another decent option if you're chasing rank especially, but Yeah, don't really have much faith in Chelsea, so Palmer is the only Chelsea player that I have, and Petrovic drops out, and Nico Jackson drops out as well, obviously. Don't have enough money for him. If I had enough money, I would probably do João Pedro to Nicolas Jackson. Seems like a better option to me, considering the fact that Chelsea are just slightly better than Brighton at this point of the season. But Nico Jackson as well has shown that he is sort of like a Darwin 2.0 type of guy who looks enticing because he gets chances and he gets really close to scoring goals, but he just can't finish his chances, at least when they're onside, as we saw this past game where he scored a really nice offside goal. Yeah, Nico Jackson drops out for that matter, or for that reason. But I still think he's a decent option at least. Aït-Nouri also drops out. He was the 15th pick last time around, the last pick of the draft. And he obviously blanked this past game week and also got injured, so that's why he's dropped out as well. And I made room for Van de Ven in the squad instead. So that's pretty much it for the weekly wildcard draft for this game week. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like the team. If you have any players in this team that you don't like, any players that I feel like I had left out that I really should have in the squad, maybe another Newcastle guy potentially. Maybe you don't want to triple up on Spurs or double up on the Spurs defense because you're so bad defensively. Plenty of things you could talk about with this team, but let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts about the wildcard team, or if you need any help with your own teams yourself, whether that's through a wildcard or through just regular transfers. I'd be more than happy to help and yeah, try to get you guys to the highest possible rank for the end of the season pretty much. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. As always, see you next time. Bye bye.